We start off like so many episodes probably should, with Janeway coldly talking to someone she summoned to the ready room while she's gazing off into the cold and heartless void of empty space. Man was matter, that was Snowden's secret. Drop him out a window and he'll fall. Set fire to him and he'll burn. Bury him and he'll rot like other kinds of garbage. The spirit gone, man is garbage. Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Ready for your performance evaluation, Ensign whoever? As you can see, in this case, she's talking to Tuvok, and the purpose of this tedious scene is to establish that it's his birthday. And he gets a cake from the "can that even be pierced by a knife" school of baking that we saw way back in Twisted. And Janeway sulks at him until he blows out the candle. Well, thankfully, this crap is interrupted by the arrival of a ship emitting a distress signal, with an Ocampon on board. It turns out to be Kes, and she's pleading to be allowed over onto Voyager. But this is all a trick, because she actually rams Voyager, beams aboard before blowing that thing up, and then proceeds to blow out the walls as she travels up the hall. You know, because screw this place. Our episode is titled Fury, and my best guess is that it's because what the audience is supposed to feel when, after the touching send-off she was given in the gift, Kes is only brought back to show that now she's a murderous, unfeeling bitch. Let's hear it for nostalgia! Now, I'm pretty sure I know why they did that, and I suppose from that standpoint I should congratulate them. It completely subverts expectations to bring back a character who is liked by many and then turn them into a villain. That's outside-the-box thinking. It's just that's the same kind of outside-the-box thinking that gave us Generations Kirk should die a pointless death thinking. You know, sometimes the box does exist for a reason, like if it's a building with zombies scratching at the doors. If you try to think outside that one, something's going to eat your brain. Because I have the sneaking suspicion that at this point, near the end of Voyager's 6th season, there were 3 types of people watching. Those who had no idea who Kes was, so this was pointless to them. Those who remember who didn't care about Kes, and those who remembered who liked her. For the second group, her return is probably going to be met with either indifference or even bemusement. Finally, someone that Voyager has screwed over is caught up and is hankered for some payback. But of course, this group wouldn't shed any tears if Kes never returned again, because obviously, if you don't care about somebody, you don't care if they don't show up. No, the only ones who would care are those in the final group, the ones who like Kes. And on seeing that she would return after being so unfairly cut loose from the show, they now discover that she's a bitter old monster now. In short, the only people who would give a crap whether or not Kes would show up in the show are the ones who would loathe the idea of her transforming into a murdering bitch. And she shows up having transformed into a murdering bitch. Voyager, it's like you're pioneers in the field of pissing off your core fan base. So old lady Kes proceeds through Voyager, beating 7 kinds of shit out of everyone and everything that crosses her path. Ah, life on Voyager, where every day involves either replacing the destroyed walls, floor, or ceiling, or watching the latest threat destroy the walls, floor, or ceiling that you seamlessly installed just yesterday. Voyager's like Sisyphus without the optimism. Kes gets to engineering and begins fondling the warp core, despite Torres and Seven's best efforts. Well, I'll assume those are their best efforts. Torres tries shutting it down, but gets killed for the trouble. Yeah, Seven, that's what it looks like when you use your special power to accomplish any old thing the script demands. How does it feel to be on the outside looking in this time? So using the power of Voyager's warp core, Kes throws herself into the past using nothing but sheer bloody-mindedness and a complete inability to give a damn. She also warps reality to disguise herself because at this point, why not? Kes swings by sickbay to pick up an off-button hypospray and some uncomfortable conversation with the doc before she goes to visit herself in aeroponics. A little blast, getting locked inside a stasis chamber, I assume that's what that is. And now future Kes is free to wander the ship without people wondering how she's in 2 places at once. So, whatever her evil plan is, now it can happen without any interference. And it has to be evil if the music's to be believed. I mean, it was good enough to let us know how screwed Carey was when he was picked to go back to Voyager last week, in Friendship 1. Oh, and speaking of Carey, this is the past, 56 days in their trip. So, he's got to be around here somewhere, right? By this point, he's probably made up a little seminar to help deal with the time travelers and let them settle in. Here's your pamphlet. I'll have a slideshow at 1900 hours, and there'll be a refreshment break halfway through. Should be interesting. I understand there will be 3 Janeways here tonight, and one of them is French-Canadian. Next stop's the mess hall, where I guess Neelix is ruining lunch again.
You should give it your own name, like the Greasy Neelix.
That's a ridiculous name. How are people going to know whether they mean the burger or Neelix if they say that, huh? Kes needs to get to the ready room, and one key that opens any door on this ship is a pot of coffee. So that's why she's here, though Neelix won't stop talking about their date tonight, much to her chagrin.
I'm not having a great day either.
Well, tell us all about it, since God knows there's no stopping you. Finally, with coffee in hand, Kes can get underway, where Janeway is discussing the Vidians. I guess there was a recent attack, and they'd have an updated version of the old story of waking in a bathtub with a kidney gone. Updated because it's on Ryza now. But Chakotay says there's more to the Vidians than just swiping organs. He's been studying their culture. Don't ask me how he got the materials to study with, but he did, so he knows that they were like humanity before the phage happened.
Makes you wonder what we'd do under the same circumstances?
I wonder if this is intended to subtly explain what has happened to Kes, to say that just because someone was once a good person doesn't mean that one day circumstances won't drive them into becoming a monster. Unfortunately, Voyager has never handled subtlety well, and in any case, it's not any comfort to Kes fans who are watching her murder the crew and piss all over their nostalgia, and possibly in Janeway's coffee, though I don't think that'd stop her from drinking it.
Oh, you read my mind.
All right, you're a telepath. Feel free to read the part of my mind that says, "Bring me coffee." All other parts are off limits. Kes deliberately spills some so she can access Janeway's terminal as part of this evil plan. Janeway was called away because Ensign Wildman has a plan for the Vidians, a neural agent that knocks them out, but not the Voyager crew. Now you might say, wait, why didn't they ever use that thing then? That could have been handy lots of times, like, for instance, the time they blew up Voyager because the crew was being slaughtered for their organs. Well, you'll see why soon enough. After Kes's little trick, the Vidians have vanished from sensors. They only appear rarely when Voyager is changing course, like they were trying to direct Voyager towards this spot where warp is going to be useless. Because of the first rule about flying at warp, you see, don't make even minor course corrections at FTL speeds or you risk fracturing the hull, a point so important that it has never been mentioned or applied before or after this episode. Well, to deal with this problem that they totally didn't pull out of their asses just now, Janeway decides to have the journey be pre-programmed so they'd only drop out of warp to navigate around the hazards, a couple seconds at most, and then they'll be back at warp and free from ambush. But they'll need a better scan of this area, so Tuvok suggests the Delta Flyer fly off ahead and scan the region. But everyone looks like he just picked his nose and flicked it at Janeway's map. There's no Delta Flyer yet, you silly Vulcan. And one thing this episode obviously values highly is continuity, right? Tuvok's still feeling weird about the Delta Flyer incident later, and then he sees Naomi, who leads him into the cargo bay where Seven and the Borg kids are. Something's not right here.
May I help you, sir?
Yeah, that confirms that there has to be time travel involved. Yep, Kes is already making preparations for a trip home in one of the shuttles, but Tom interrupts, making her feel awkward with that whole "I'm destroying you out of revenge" thing. And in her quarters, Neelix has set up a special dinner for her to have alone, or with his company. Well, that settles that then. She eventually manages to contact the Vidians to help harvest Voyager's crew in return for safe passage back to Ocampa. How will she be able to do that, though?
Command authorization required. Access granted.
Oh, of course! How silly of me! Tuvok's reported the situation to Janeway, so after they start their flight through this hellhole of space, she heads down to sickbay and badgers the doctor into telling her whether or not Ensign Wildman is pregnant. And that's when he gives the retcon about Naomi. You remember, the reason that she grows so fast is exactly the same as the reason she grows so slowly. Voyager, you're the one show that follows up nonsense by doubling down with more nonsense. Meanwhile, Tuvok's flashing back, or forward, or sideways, to the events from the beginning in his latest hallucination. He wanders into engineering, even flashing back to stuff that he didn't see before he collapses. Well, Janeway checks her NSA files to see if anything had happened then.
Captain?
Tachyons.
Those little bastards. So time travel is involved, and Tuvok's picking it up because, shut up. Kes is clearly not the person that she was anymore, and I obviously mean more than the whole murder the crew thing. When the Vidian pushes her, she just pushes right back.
He's suspicious. If I transmit it now, I'll be discovered.
That's your problem.
Apparently, it's yours too.
Well, with that info, the Vidian ship can ambush Voyager and easily take it down. And as they start to board, Kes takes down the environmental controls that would distribute that anti-Vidian gas. See, that is why it is never going to be used again, because you only get one chance, and if it doesn't work, you aren't allowed to fix the problem and do it again, and that's just against the rules. You have to come up with an entirely new plan from scratch. It's the same reason why, when Janeway figures out that they have a traitor on board and realizes that there are now two Kesses, well, she shuts down the controls.
Computer initiate site-to-site transport. Program Kes Beta 6.
Unable to comply. Control functions have been disabled.
Yeah, obviously she's going to have to go there on foot, right? It's not like she could just put her hands on the console and re-enable those functions, right? That would be ridiculous. Janeway confronts her, and Kes's motives are revealed, that she blames Voyager for... Just watch.
She's a prisoner on this ship.
No one's a prisoner here, Kes.
I was a child. You corrupted me. Their ideas.
What ideas?
Exploration, discovery. I believed you.
Yeah, basically it's crazy, and not very well delivered crazy, I might add. Because obviously you can't give her any other motivation that would explain this. I mean, it's not as if in the present the protection of the Ocampa has been gone for nearly a year, thus leaving them vulnerable to any hostile power coming along, including the Kazon, or the fact that Kes reached her incredible power in the midst of Borg space, thus making them aware of the Ocampan potential and giving them a reason to seek out the homeworld of her people. Because if those were true, then it would be obvious that Kes's actions could be easily explained as a desperate attempt to undo the extermination and or assimilation of her people, and sacrificing the Voyager crew is just a bitter necessity to save her entire species, the latest in a string of hard choices that Kes has had to make. You know, ever since she had to go it alone with unfathomable power and her desire to help people, trying, but not having the guidance in using her powers or in exercising judgment to use them, so she made mistakes, some small, some large. And when she finally did go home, she found a planet that was now a graveyard, last of the Ocampa. And so she tried to make it right. Maybe she even tried going back in time before, hoping to avert it, but her powers interacted with those of the visiting caretaker and her companion, causing the very devastation to her planet that prompted Voyager's eventual arrival in the first place. A reminder, perhaps, that using that ship, maybe she could get close enough to the right place in the right time without harming her people, but the only way to do that would be to make one last sacrifice, the sacrifice of her old crew. A decision that was killing her, but it was them or her entire people, and Janeway's choice in the beginning had been that the Ocampan people were worth more than the crew of Voyager, so that Kes's distancing of herself from the crew was only an attempt to shield herself from the overwhelming guilt for the sacrifice that she was demanding of them. Or, you know, we could just say, bitches be crazy and leave it at that, huh? While that's going on, Chakotay's been handling the action stuff for the episode, managing to get them away from the Vidians with only minor ripping the crap out of Voyager. And when Kes won't stop using her chi punches, Janeway finally guns her down. Hey, shooting the crew feels kind of good. I'm going to have to remember this. Tuvok explains what he remembers from his visions about Kes needing the warp core, and later Kes awakens. Uh-oh. Looks like you're in for a talking to over what you did will have done, young lady. Actually, it's to formulate a plan. Only the three of them will know about it because, of course, Janeway would never assign the only people who knew to a single mission where they might get killed, right? Oh, no, it's even worse. We're going to have to sit through the entire damn birthday cake scene all over again? Oh, yeah, because God knows the drama is going to be even more gripping the second time through, right? Will he still blow out the candle? Oh, the suspense is killing me. Or at the very least, this scene is killing me. They're again interrupted by the arrival of Kes, but this time they're aware of what's about to happen and are prepared. They evacuate the deck before Kes can get there to start tearing it apart.
Reading bulkhead ruptures on deck 11, section 17, 18, 19.
How did you know?
All of this has happened before. All of this will happen again. Really? No, when I break a time loop, it damn well stays broken. And remember, time and again, Janeway broke a time loop by shooting it. That's how she rolls. But first she's going to give Plan A a chance, a holographic recording Kes created after that incident to play for herself if this were to ever happen.
You made that holo recording because you didn't want this to happen again. 3 years ago.
Wait, 3 years, Captain? Oh, Yeah, we can really trust your retcon of the Wildman pregnancy, given how you can't even handle the timeline of your own damn plot without being overwhelmed. She tries to talk Kes down.
Stay here with us.
I can't.
The budget can't support another main cast member, and I know what happens to B characters like Lieutenant Carey. But hologram Kes and Janeway's pleas are enough to get rid of the crazy, I guess, so she decides not to go back in time and feed their organs to the Vidians. And Janeway tells Tuvok that it's time for another cover-up. Instead of this plan, Kes is going to return to the Ocampa. Except they're already at least to the halfway point between Earth and the Ocampan homeworld, and Kes is in her golden years, is just going to fly back there in this little shuttle thing. You know, if she can use her powers to get herself home with enough time left to make that trip actually worth it, couldn't she get Voyager the rest of the way home? It'd get us out of having to sit through Unimatrix Zero, after all. Post-episode follow-up, Stupid Neelix moment is the greasy Neelix. It's like Atkins, except it completely misses the point. We have a Lazarus of the Week for Old Lady Kes and Torres, who are resurrected via time loop. Final score for Fury is 2 out of 10. It's like the opposite of yesterday's Enterprise. Instead of giving closure for a character that's left, it ruins the closure we already had with the message that now she's a wrinkled old nut. And in so doing, the nostalgia factor that the episode is banking on is completely trashed. The only pleasure you might get is if you are indifferent or dislike Kes. Then you might enjoy the sight of her screwing with the crew. But otherwise, this is just an absurd waste of time. No pun intended. Another time travel incident polluting the early days, huh? You know, it's a wonder that there was time for any regular episodes to have happened back then, given all the crazy shit that future people kept causing. I mean, I think by this point in the show, Janeway needed some kind of database to keep track of what future interferences she was going to have to deal with eventually. Let me see now, LMNO. Are you mad about my involvement in your personal history or history in general? Is this due to my own time travel or to your time travel? Have I, will I, did I kill you or vice versa? Are you actually me in disguise? Were you sent by that whiny Daniels guy because I told that little bitch to find someone else to bother?
I'm afraid.